Star Wars is often considered one of the multimedia franchises ever made, with a rich history of more fumbles than successes, the extent of which is of course not just limited to movies but also games, both in terms of setting standards, cultural impact, and dividing fans at cataclysmic proportions. One such good example of setting standards is of course Knights of the Old Republic, developed by none other than BioWare. Not only did Knights of the Old Republic manage to be an amazing Star Wars game, but one of the most influential RPGs from the early 2000s, setting up roots for several base structures and tropes that are being followed and iterated upon even to this day, not just in BioWare's own games, but most sci-fi space RPGs. Needless to say, it's good, and I'm gonna tell you why that is. Now, I'm gonna be honest, my knowledge regarding the overall lore of the series is a bit limited to mostly self-contained games that don't draw too heavily from other things. So forgive my transgressions if I say something outwardly stupid. I ask for forgiveness and redemption prior hand, just in case. So, what is Knights of the Old Republic? It's a sci-fi space RPG set 4000 years prior to all the Galactic Empire malarkey. You play as generic soldier man or woman number 69420 who wakes up naked aboard a Republic ship, which in typical sci-fi fashion is in the middle of crashing and burning down. Getting up, you meet generic soldier man number 69421 who tells you that our ship is unfortunately under attack. You know, if you couldn't tell from the explosions and the cutscene. He also serves as the typical BioWare tutorial person. And by that I mean he literally breaks the fourth wall to tell you what buttons you need to press to put some damn clothes on. Anyway, he tells us that we need to find Bastila, a Jedi in charge of our mission who has unlocked a special ability called Battle Meditate, which we can use to defeat enemies by persuading them to get wrecked themselves. Knowing that she has a meta build which might get nerfed next season, it's important that we find her to properly fight the Sith army. Joining up with Tutorial Guy, we begin our crusade of genociding Sith soldiers. This is where we get a glimpse of the core gameplay of Knights of the Old Republic. The combat is basically a turn-based system disguised as real-time combat, wherein the attacks are counted on a D20 system, and a round-based, where multiple factors like the way you build your character, what feats you have, and the abilities of your opponent determine your chances of successfully hitting your target and dealing damage within a specific range. But it doesn't completely pause the game automatically, meaning you can just as easily break form and run away, heal up or do something else and rejoin. Personally, I still prefer real-time combat, but this is still a pretty good system and quite enjoyable. As for building your character, once you begin the game, you get to choose 3 different classes: Soldier, Scoundrel and Scout, which provides some benefits, like Soldier allowing a feat or perk every time you level up at the cost of less skill points, as opposed to say Scoundrel providing more skill points but less feats per level. The skills you upgrade are also slightly affected by your class, more specifically the amount of skill points you spend on certain skills, like Soldiers having less points to put on Persuade but more in Treat Injury, while Scoundrels having less points to put in the latter but more in the former. Overall, it's a pretty good system. Nothing too complex, but just detailed enough to make my monkey brain go bonkers anytime I land a dozen perfect hits in a row without missing once because I leveled everything up in the correct way. I'll get into it in more detail a bit later. Moving on to the story, traveling through the ship, Caden Elenko contacts us and informs us that our ship is indeed going down and that we need to head to the bridge. Heading to the bridge, we find everyone's either gone or dead. With nothing else to do, we head to the escape pods, but not before we get interrupted by a Dark Jedi. And unfortunately, Tutorial Guy heroically sacrifices himself so we can escape. Rest in peace, Tutorial Man. You'll join the Hall of Fame of every BioWare character that gets killed in tutorial missions. Either way, Caden contacts us again and says Bastila's escape pod is already away and we're the last people left on the ship. So, we escape as well, mere moments before the ship fully blows up. Landing on the planet of Taris, Caden manages to drag us to safety while we were unconscious, during which we receive a vision of some kind. Waking up, Caden tells us that we need to find Bastila before she gets nerfed or it's over for the Republic. Also, the planet we're on, Taris, is under Sith occupation and lockdown, so we need to be careful. Also, Bastila's escape pod crash landed on the lower level, which has a lethal plague going around that turns people into whatever the hell this is. Also, the sub-lower levels are undergoing a good old-fashioned gang warfare. And by far the worst of all, most of the citizens are British.
Who are you? What are you doing in here? You can't just come barging into someone's home.
To put it bluntly, we are by and large at rock bottom. The only way to progress is to do some work and have some goddamn faith. So, this is where the game fully opens up. Your main task, as previously mentioned, is to find Bastila. But as any good RPG, you can completely ignore the main quest and do random things, like say flirting with an off-duty Sith officer in the cantina, who's so taken aback that someone actually genuinely flirted with them that you immediately receive an invitation to a random private Sith party.
Don't be late. We're starting right after our shift's end. Most of us won't even be going back to the base to lock up our uniforms. I look forward to seeing you there.
Conveniently though, at the party everyone else passes out from excessive boost control, so you can steal a Sith uniform to get past the lower city guards by disguising yourself. Moral of the story, hitting on random strangers has a lot of benefits. Don't try that in real life, please. Talking more about the side quests, they make up a significant portion of what makes Knights of the Old Republic so good. There's a really good variety of different things to barge into. From normal things like saving a Thorian from getting bullied by a bunch of racist kids, racist, speciesist, alienist, whatever, to marriage counseling gone homicidal.
The wife put a kink in my battle droids. They're in some sort of discharge loop. And if I move from this spot, they're threatening to blow up. She knew I wouldn't know how to fix them. Could you try to do some repairs? They don't care if you move. It's just me who's stuck.
I say leave him.
You're pretty heartless for such a pretty lady, you know?
I take it back. Let's congratulate his wife.
Commentary. I say we blast the meatbag and save you the trouble, Master.
What's with all the droids lately? My wife get to you too?
Negative. I just don't like organic meatbags. Except for the Master, of course.
To dancing. Glad to see BioWare's dance choreography hasn't improved even the slightest in 2 decades. To role-playing as Saul Goodman, and I mean that in a literal sense because you can screw your client by telling the truth beforehand.
No! You traitor!
Sunry! No!
But still end up proving his innocence and lie.
Your honors! No!
Regardless, it's the fact how in-depth and detailed a lot of these side quests are, and how many different ways there are to either screw them or complete them in alternate ways that makes them so fun. Even the more simplistic ones have enough charm, humor or good writing that it makes it worthwhile to see them till the end. Apart from that, these side quests also provide a significant amount of XP which lets you level up and build your character however you please. Talking more about builds, there are 6 core stats that determine your build. Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Wisdom, Intelligence and Charisma, aptly acronymed as SIGWEEK. Oh wait, this isn't Fallout, sorry. Either way, each stat affects different abilities like Strength affecting melee damage and hit chances during combat, Wisdom affecting total force powers and making it harder for enemies to resist your force powers, etc. Apart from these stats, there's also skills which, as previously mentioned, is affected by what class you pick, as well as some of the core stats. Like persuasion checks, for example, that require both charisma and persuade to be high in order to pass. So it's not like New Vegas where you can put charisma to 1 and speech to 100 and effortlessly breeze through any speech check. Here you'll need both, which is a good thing. Apart from that, there's also perks or feats as they're called here. Once again, these provide an additional layer of advantages on top of the core stats and skills, like say Power Attack Mastery, which reduces attack penalty and increases the range of damage you can do with power attacks. There's also a unique feat rewarded to each specific class. So, depending on how you've built your character, you need to pick relevant perks and rank them up, which if done well can get you quite overpowered. Overall, it's a really well-connected system that woefully interweaves each upgrade mechanic so they're all interdependent on each other without feeling separate or disconnected. Apart from XP, these side quests also provide ample credits for you to buy all sorts of goodies, including healing items, drugs, shields, and of course better gear. There's a good variety of armor to choose from, and all of them are divided into 3 categories: light, medium, and heavy, which require specific feats in order to equip. Some armor pieces are customizable as well, though it's quite limited. Some also provide additional stat upgrades as well. Apart from armors, there's also weapons. There's no limit to equipping weapons as there are with armors, except lightsabers of course, but it's countered by the fact that you straight up can't hit shite if you haven't upgraded specific feats related to what weapons you're using. And since a lot of these feats are locked behind levels, it makes sure that you don't become overpowered right off the bat. It heavily depends on your build as to what weapons you should pick, because of attack penalties. Like you can't just pick mastery in double-handed individual weapons and then expect to 360 no-scope everyone with a blaster rifle. It's a simple but a decent system that's mostly well balanced, that offers a lot of opportunity for experimentation with different builds and weapons. Moving on with the story, once you get to the lower city, you learn from one of the gangs involved in the previously mentioned gang war that Bastila's escape pod crashed in the lowest part of Terrace. You know, the portion with the weird zombie plague. And that she herself has probably been captured by the rival gang. Considering this entire section specifically shows you how the opposite gang has been constantly launching attacks on civilians, including you, to oppress the area, there's really no question as to which gang you should support. So, what's the plan? Apparently, control over the lower city would be decided by a swoop race. And as suggested by the gang we support, Bastille is there too in a BDSM outfit as a personal prize for whosoever wins the race. So this is what it comes down to. You need to drive your way to victory. You need to have the drive to rescue Bastille. You need to drive. Okay, enough with the drive jokes. Either way, this is where the game introduces another side activity. Space drag racing, or swoop racing as it's called here. And it's pretty fun. You run a straight obstacle course with blockades to avoid while changing gears at the right time and indulging in speed boosts to gain more speed and acceleration. Like I said, it's pretty fun. And considering how good our drive is, as expected, we win. Unfortunately though, the leader of the rival gang tries cock-blocking you by mentioning the custom accelerator we used in our swoop bike. Something that they previously tried stealing, which we then stole back from them. But he gets rejected because there's no rule about it, which leads to a fight. And won't you know, Bastille seizes the moment and breaks free. After trolling everyone together, we return back to Caden. Now all we need is a way off Terrace, to which a Mandalorian named Canderous, who wants to get off the planet as well. Together we trick his employee, a local crime lord under influence by the Exchange, a shady criminal business organization, and steal his ship, the Ebon Hawk. Moments before the entire planet is decimated by the Sith under the orders of the big bad himself, Darth Malak. Narrowly escaping pursuing Sith fighters by using the world's jankiest turret section, we finally make it to safety, Dantooine, a place with a Jedi enclave in it. Also, apparently you are strong in the Force. As such, you get trained here. This is where the game fully introduces the Force and lightsabers. Just like normal classes, you get to pick from 3 different Jedi classes now. Depending on which you pick, you get specific advantages and unique feats like lightsaber specialization or Force focus, etc. Also yes, you get to unlock tons of Force powers. The amount of Force juice you get is governed by some of your core stats. All of them are pretty cool. Mixing and matching throws, chokes, and stuns are quite fun in combat. Once that's done, we begin following the trail left behind by Darth Revan, the Sith Lord who was initially in charge of the Sith army after falling to the dark side when the Mandalorian wars were over, as well as his then sidekick Malak, because both of them appear in your visions. Following them leads us to some ancient ruins with a star map, which has incomplete coordinates to a star forge, an ancient factory to produce fleets, weapons, and all sorts of goodies. And just like any other sci-fi ancient advanced civilization that leaves clues scattered throughout the galaxy, there are more star maps scattered throughout the galaxy, all of which when combined will give the complete coordinates to the Starforge. So, it's off to exploring the galaxy now. Of course, you won't be alone. Joining you is your merry band of misfits and wackadoos. And I think it's time we talked about the companions. Just like any other BioWare game, they make up yet another significant portion of what makes Knights of the Old Republic so special. Each and every one of them has a distinct and unique personality that help provide multiple different insights into the mission.
Insults? Maybe if your master had trained your lightsaber to be as quick as your tongue, you could have escaped those Vulkars, you spoiled little Jedi princess.
I was not spoiled. I was given the same training as everyone else in the Order. You are nothing but... No, I must not do this. There is no emotion. There is peace.
That's the problem with you Jedi. Always chanting about peace and control. Never up for a good fight. Well, except for Revan, I guess.
Enough, Mandalorian. I won't rise to your bait anymore. The game is over. Let us continue on with what we were doing.
From normal and grounded perspectives like say Karth, being an average Joe war hero who wants to get revenge after he lost most of his family when his mentor betrayed the Republic and joined the Sith, as Revan and Malak turned to the dark side, to special cases like Jolie, the absolute Chad Bindo, after losing his wife to the dark side and leaving the Jedi Council because they didn't punish him for it, who's there to spectate the match and provide commentary, Everyone fits, even those that don't have a direct connection to the plot feel like a natural part of the team. Not a single person feels pretentious and phoned in or just randomly thrown into the bunch. Yes, this is a slander of Knights of the Old Republic 2's companions. I'll take all the dislikes I get. I will give you this though. I liked Atten and the Handmaiden, apart from the returning cast. That's it. Anyway, apart from having good character development and some well-written personal quests, they can be leveled up and built up as per your preference and can be really helpful in combat. You can even switch to them and play as them if you want. Though it's not necessary because their AI is more than enough capable of handling themselves if you've built them well enough. But it's still a cool addition either way. So technically you won't be limited in terms of builds. Say you've built your character in ranged attacks, so you can build Bastila to be good with melee and switch to her anytime you like. Overall, it's pretty cool. Getting back to the story, after tracking down most of the star maps, disaster strikes. Our ship gets captured by the Sith, forcing you to choose a squad mate who can Metal Gear Solid his way through the Sith and rescue everyone when no one's looking. After learning that Dantooine has been destroyed, we get treated to the world's most awkward torture sequence, even surpassing Battlefield 4's torture sequence. We do get rescued by said squad mate that you picked before the big bad Darth Malak arrives and try to escape the ship. Not before we run into the big bad anyway and are treated to the big bad plot twist. You were Darth Revan all along. After you were betrayed by Malak and left in near-death condition, Bastila saved you, and much of your memories were wiped so you could help lead everyone to the Starforge, and maybe even have a chance at redemption. I'm pretty sure this is widely known as by far the most defining moment in the entire game, and I fully agree. Not only is the twist well written and aligns with every bit of clue or foreshadowing thrown beforehand, but it even fits perfectly with the way the rest of the story and Revan's journey is structured. Because when you start the game, you, just like Revan, have no idea what's going on. You're just an average Joe who's getting some weird visions. You're effectively on the same page as your character, so when the truth does get revealed, it's as much a shock to Revan as it is to us, the player, as both collectively learn of all the things that Revan's past self has done. Unlike in Knights of the Old Republic 2, where something super important happened to your character years ago that your character is aware of but the player wasn't a part of it. Yet the game can't spare throwing rhetorics about its importance 24/7, effectively disconnecting you from your character's overall journey. It's a really easy thing to mess up, to give a blank RPG character a backstory, or try to half-assedly be a blank slate and a predefined character and essentially screwing both sides like in Fallout 4. Knights of the Old Republic 1, however, manages to strike a perfect middle ground between both ways. Though as good as the twist is, it's immediately followed up by the biggest cockblock in the entire game, as you're thrown into battle with Darth Malak. And I no joke nearly killed him, but the game decides to pull this random BS where you get force choked by Malak right when he's at like 10 HP, even if you have a metric ton of force resistance. And then Bastila sacrifices herself to let you escape and gets captured. How? He was at fucking 10 HP. I see BioWare's habit of cutscene cockblocks isn't just limited to the Mass Effect franchise. Regardless, we escape and realize that with Bastila and her meta build gone, the Republic might be at a teeny-weeny bit of disadvantage. Our only hope now is to find the Starforge as fast as possible. After finding the last star map by infiltrating a Sith Academy on Korriban, we finally get coordinates to the Starforge. Problem is there's a disruption field around it, causing us to crash on an unknown planet. Now we've got two problems. One, we can't escape until we disable the disruptor field and find some repair parts. Two, we contacted the Republic fleet to show up, and if we don't hurry, they'll get caught in the field and get crippled as well. This is also where the game starts getting a bit into padding territory. This whole hour-long portion is focused on running across long stretches of the map with some boring combat encounters to find some repair parts before meeting the Elders, which is cool. They're the remnants of the Rakatan Infinite Empire who built the Starforge. Though they're in war with another remnant group that's more brutal and raiderish. And you're told to run all the way across the map to their base to rescue some captive members of the Elders. And then run all the way back to the Elder camp before they'll actually let you in the chamber leading to the disruption field control. Granted, this isn't the first time this has happened. Tatooine and Kashyyyk are equally guilty of this level of backtrack padding that really made me miss the fucking Mako or Nomad. Either way, once that's done, you get into the disruption field control tower. Unfortunately, before getting to the controls, Bastila shows up, being turned to the dark side by Malak. Problem is, by this point my character is the equivalent of that one specific meme, and as such, she barely stands a chance. Regardless, after getting her ass kicked and bolting away, we drop the disruption field and fly to the Starforge just as the Republic fleet shows up. Problem is, Bastila's using her meta ability to cripple the Republic. So, it's our job to go nerf her before we lose the match. After doing that, we finally face Mal before getting spammed with a billion droids to pad the time. Either way, apparently he stole a bunch of Jedi from Dantooine and is sucking their power off to power himself. That still sounds wrong anyway, but whatever. And so the boss fight begins. You gotta kill these undead Jedi first, or Malak will keep sucking them to regenerate himself, goddammit. Either way, after defeating him, we escape just as the Starforge is completely destroyed. We get rewarded and live happily ever after. So, unless you get the bad dark side ending, we did it. We saved the world. And that was Knights of the Old Republic. It's easy to see why this game's held in such high regard, as an absolute classic in Star Wars media. Even those not familiar with Star Wars can easily get into and enjoy the absolute shite out of it. It's remarkable how well it has stood the test of time, not just on its own, but in terms of relevancy as well. As mentioned, a lot of BioWare's tropes and basic story arcs originated from here that simply wouldn't be where they are if not for Knights of the Old Republic. It's obviously not a perfect game and is relatively janky here and there, but as always, the positives far outweigh the negatives, and that's the big takeaway. So, that's all I have to say about this amazing game. Thank you all for watching. Like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you again. Hopefully sooner. My upload schedule really isn't looking particularly great. Anyways, bye.